Alright, so welcome along to Here's Your Otters Reviews, and we're getting into the Star Wars film that has caused probably the most arguments online in the history of the franchise. For me, it is what it is. As I said, if you've seen my review on The Force Awakens, I did say what people that grew up with the franchise didn't want to see was the legacy character's been treated badly. Now, a lot of people hate what they did with Luke Skywalker in this film. I agree with that. It's not the character we remember. It's not where we wanted to see him going. And Rian Johnson took a lot of flack for his choices with the character in this movie, which is fair play. But I did say in the prior review, J.J. Abrams has a lot to answer for as well, because he had written The Force Awakens with a few other people. I'm not even going to look them up now because I don't really care that much. But he was the one, his story was the one that put Luke Skywalker onto this island and gave up on being a Jedi essentially and went into hiding exactly the same way that Yoda and Obi-Wan had done. So, again, we haven't been a kid myself whenever the original trilogy had came out. I wasn't even born when the first one came out. I was a very, very small child when the second one came out, and not so much bigger when the third one came out. So there's an interesting little story that I shared of getting freaked out of a life-size cardboard cutout with Darth Vader. So check the prior review on The Force Awakens for that. But those three characters, Luke, Han and Leia, we would have liked a nicer send-off for those characters. We don't get it in this trilogy, the sequel trilogy, but again, it is what it is. But I haven't said all that. There's a few pieces of the movie that jumped out to me because out of personal experience in my real life, there's a few elements of the story that jumped out to me that just resonated with me. Overall, the film isn't fantastic, but there's parts of it where I kind of liked where they were going with it, and it's a tough one to talk about because there is nobody that hates Star Wars more than a Star Wars fan. So it doesn't matter what you say, you could love the movie or you could hate the movie. There's going to be a certain batch of people out there that are going to disagree no matter what way you fall on them. But for me, it's kind of 50-50 with this film. There's some elements in it that I liked, more elements that I didn't like. But plot wise, shortly after the battle of the Star Killer base, Leia is leading the resistance forces on an evacuation from when the First Order fleet arrives. They're coming after them now after what happened in the prior film. It does mirror, like people say, and this is probably the one part of this review that's going to get a bit of shade thrown my way. This does mirror The Empire Strikes Back in a few ways. So in a way, quite a safety play again in this movie. You've got your main character heading off to train with a Jedi Master. We had that in The Empire Strikes Back. Escaping a rebel base. We had that in The Empire Strikes Back. We get a little bit of, good bit of Battlestar Galactica in this one. Like, people have criticised it for being a slow race through space in this movie. That's kind of what Battlestar was. Battlestar, it worked for them, not so much here. But Poe Dameron, he leads a counter-attack on the Star Destroyers whenever they turn up. he wants to take out a dreadnought, and he manages to take it down against the orders of Leia, but he loses the vast majority of their bombers during it after she orders them to not attack but to turn and run from them. But he wants to, stick it to them and say, look, if we can take this down, we're going to show that we're a force to be reckoned with. But he does take it down, but the cost is far too high. The remaining resistance escapes into hyperspace, but the First Order's using this tracking device that's able to track them through hyperspace. New technology. So the slow motion chase starts. Poe, he's demoted for not following orders. But there was part of me too, whenever I was watching this here, and I was thinking, okay, like, she's on the radio here from the lead ship telling them, like, don't attack, turn, escape. And obviously everybody else is hearing this, so he goes against her orders, and everybody else out there was with him went against her orders as well. So absolute disaster from the word go for the Rebel Alliance. There is other attacks while they're trying to escape. Kylo Ren leading an attack, he hesitates to fire on the lead ship after sensing Leia, his mother, been on there. But the wingman he has with him destroys the bridge, killing most of the leaders. Leia's dragged out into space, but she survives by using the Force, and she flies her way back in, and people have compared it, well, people call it like, what was it, the term they used for it, the Space Mary Poppins and whatnot. We've never seen this Force power before, this is nonsense and whatnot. That's science fiction fantasy at the end of the day. I don't know when people started to go to the movies just to get offended at things. Like, it is what it is. It's not a fantastic movie, but for me, I've got two ways of looking at it. Disney bought it, they can do whatever the hell they want with it. When they do something right, fair enough, they do it right. Some of the TV shows we're getting is fantastic. They did drop the ball, in all fairness, with these 3 movies, but again, they own it. They can do whatever the hell they want with it. Do I like it? No. As far as I'm concerned, the Star Wars saga, as far as the movies went, finished with Return of the Jedi. It just, for me, the whole storyline for Kylo Ren and everything that happens here just takes a massive dump on everything that Anakin Skywalker went through, and but to get back to the film, on this island with Luke Skywalker, he's under exile. Luke refuses to help and says that the Jedi should end, but after R2-D2 pipes up and actually shows him the recording of Princess Leia and A New Hope, he's like, that's a dirty move. He agrees to give Rey free lessons in the ways of the Force. While this is going on, Rey and Kylo begin communicating through the Force, which puzzles them both. Kylo tells Rey that Luke feared his power. Luke confesses that he momentarily contemplated, that's a big word for this time of night, he contemplated killing Kylo, sensing that Snoke was corrupting him and the growth of this darkness on him. But that's probably the part there where most people have got a problem. Like Luke Skywalker, for most of us, would never even entertain that. This was a guy that faced down the Emperor and Darth Vader, and as far as everybody else is concerned, those two people were in that room. Luke went in and he's the only one came out alive, but his true power was been strong enough to not fight. Like, threw down the lightsaber, I'm not killing my father. You can kill me all you want, but I'm not going to do what I'm told here, more or less. So that character, but in this moment, was just a little bit too off for most fans. The part that did jump out to me was whenever he was talking about the way that the Jedi Order had fallen, and they were that arrogant and stuck up, really, that they didn't see that one of their own was going to turn against them, and like the threat was right there the whole time, just within arm's reach. And the Jedi were, I'm trying to recall how many times, I think once in the movies they were referred to as a religion, and that was Tarkin that said that to Vader, and A New Hope. Their fire's gone out of the galaxy. You're the last of their religion and whatnot. So, for me, the Jedi had grown to a point that was, they were no longer, let's just say, religion. They were more of a business, like defenders of the peace and all that. They got too big for their boots. Pride comes before a fall and whatnot. So that really jumped out to me, because you're actually seeing a lot of that in real life now with religions. So right, let's get back into the movie. For the Resistance to get away from the First Order hunting them down, Poe entrusts Finn and Rose, wee mechanic, and BB-8 with a secret mission to disable the tracking device. Maz Kanatra directs them to the casino town of Canto Bight, where they meet a hacker, DJ. Pursued by the local security, they escape Canto Bight with the help of stable hand children, and like these racing animals manages to set them free. Although a lot of people have jumped on that as well, because this girl Rose went out of her way to save all these animals, but she left the kids in captivity. But at the end of the movie, you do see those kids again, and there was a possibility that was going to spin off into something else before the whole thing backfired on them. But we'll bounce off that at the very end. They get back. Finn, Rose and DJ infiltrate the flagship, but they're captured by Phasma. She turns up again. Rey also infiltrates the flagship, but is captured by Kylo, who brings her before Snoke. Snoke reveals that he connected their minds to discover Luke's whereabouts. So that's what was happening right there. Holdo plans to evacuate the remaining members of the Resistance using small transport vessels. She's taken over from Leia. Leia's now in a coma after a little flight in space. Believing that her plan is cowardly and futile, Poe leads a mutiny. A recovered Leia stuns Poe with a blaster and proceeds with the evacuation. Holdo remains aboard her ship as a decoy to mislead Snoke's fleet as the others flee to an abandoned base on Crate. DJ buys his freedom. This guy that they found on this planet that was a code breaker that could break into the ship and take out this tracking device. He's on it for himself. Another little bit that jumped out to me in the movie was whenever they were heading back from the planet where they found him, he stole a ship and he started looking through the files to see who owned it, and it was an arms trader. So of course, as he's going through the files, you're seeing all these readouts of TIE fighters and Imperial ships and whatnot, and then you see X-Wings and everything. So there's a big element in this movie that points out the element in the galaxy that are in there for the Prophet. So I liked that in it as well. So we're back with Kylo and Rey. They're in front of Snoke. Kylo, instead, he's ordered to kill Rey. She's gone on the Luke Skywalker mode. No, I'm not fighting. Blah blah blah. At this point, the lightsaber is next to Snoke. So Kylo was starting to turn at this point, or so we believe. He kills Snoke and defeats his all his guards with her help, so they're fighting back to back at this stage. Rey hopes that Kylo has abandoned the dark side, but he instead asks her to rule the galaxy of him. He turns into the Darth Vader character in a major way at this point. Join me and we'll rule the world or the galaxy together. Refusing, she battles him for control of Luke's lightsaber, but using the Force to try and drag it towards themselves, they end up destroying it. Back with the escaping rebels, Holdo sacrifices herself by slicing through Snoke's flagship at light speed, crippling the First Order fleet. Rey escapes the destruction while Kylo declares himself supreme leader. BB-8 frees Finn and Rose. They defeat Phasma and join the survivors on Crate. The First Order arrives. Poe, Finn and Rose attack with these speeders that are, ancient and fallen from all our sort of deal. Rey and Chewbacca turn up in the Millennium Falcon, start getting their final fight. Rose stops Finn from sacrificing himself. There's this massive cannon that they're using to try and break through the doors of this old rebel base. They managed to get through anyway. Luke then appears out of thin air, literally, and confronts the First Order. There's a tasty little sequence where they've got all these walkers all lined up, and he's standing on his own, staring them down, and they all open fire on him. And then when the dust settles, Luke's still standing there, and he just kind of rubs the dust off his shoulder, which is funny, to be fair. It did get a bit of a cheesy grin out of me, I will admit. He then gets into a lightsaber duel with Kylo. He had a moment with Leia whenever he turns up, and he's like, I'm not here to save him. He's past that sort of thing. He gives her the dice that were hanging in the Millennium Falcon that belonged to Han. So, he then gets into the fight with Kylo, doing all these mad sort of Matrix moves and whatnot. Kylo realises that Luke is not physically present but projecting his image through the Force. So it works. It gives the other rebels time to escape through like a back entry to the base. Rey helps the Resistance escaping the Falcon, exhausted. Luke back on the planet. He never even left the island, projecting himself across the galaxy. Dies, becomes one with the Force. Rey and Leia senses death, and Leia tells Rey that the Resistance can rise again. At the end of the movie, we see Canto bite again, and the stable hands recount the story of Luke Skywalker. Afterward, one of them moves a broom of the Force and gazes into space. Very subtly done, but one of these things where if you're not concentrating, you're going to miss it. Very, very subtle, but you do see it. Now, that was very much dusting over a lot of the details in the movie. It had a budget of 300 million. It made 1.334 billion. So it made money. It made money, but people hate it. But it is what it is. There's a lot of stuff in there. Rey at one point has you remember in The Empire Strikes Back, whenever Luke went into the cave that was strong with the dark side of the Force, and he met Darth Vader and chopped his head off, then he seen his own face inside the mask. You have a moment like that in this movie too, so there's quite a few bits in this film that do mirror what happened in The Empire Strikes Back. Like everybody's, if it's not The Empire Strikes Back, it's a terrible movie. There's a lot of, whether you want to admit it or not, there's a lot of elements in this movie that do echo The Empire Strikes Back in a lot of ways. But the thing is, it's one of those things where if they just had have been a little bit more respectful of what came before. For me, the wheels fell off it with the death of Han Solo, and the fact that Anakin Skywalker at no point in time turned up as a Force ghost to Kylo Ren and said, "Look, son, here's the score. Whatever you're hearing in your head isn't me, and if anybody could do it, it's him." Like, they have made the point in the Obi-Wan series that the reason Obi-Wan didn't see Qui-Gon for as long as he did was because he wasn't ready to see him. But for me, the person that could bring balance to the Force being Anakin Skywalker would be the sort of Force ghost that would just, whether you're ready to see me or not, I'm going to turn up and slap a bit of sense onto you. So there's things that got there that completely destroyed it for me. But again, it is what it is. It's a film, and it's make-believe. It's fantasy, science fiction fantasy. It is meant to be entertainment. Again, I don't know why or when people just started getting absolutely offended by everything that comes out as far as movies and TV shows go. If you don't like it, it's all fine and well. But there is elements from other things where even the creators of Star Wars are been idiots. There's a guy that actually works for Lucasfilm. I can't recall his name now. I remember seeing the stories when it happened. It was on our YouTube channel by a guy, Star Wars Fairy, he's called. He did a reaction video to that final episode of Mandalorian Season 2, where Luke Skywalker turns up, takes out the droids and whatnot. And he did the reaction video of himself watching it. And like a lot of us actually seeing that version of Luke Skywalker, we all found it quite emotional, especially having been children whenever that first came out. Finally getting to see him the way we wanted to see him all along, and this guy got emotional watching it. He was in tears at one point. It was great. But you would think someone working for Lucasfilm would be, seeing this would be like, job done. Like, this episode was so good, so well put together, so well acted, so well choreographed, that we have a fan here in tears, emotional, happy emotional for seeing this character again. There was this worker, the name has completely left me now. I'm pretty sure if anybody's watching this, they'll know who it is. He gets on Twitter and rips this guy a new one. Like, just, what's wrong with you? Wise up, catch yourself on, sort of deal. And I'm just thinking, what? Is it any wonder at this point that there's so much of a backlash going on with Star Wars, when even their own employees are fighting against the viewers that are actually enjoying it? So it is a weird setup right now. And what's her face that's running Lucasfilm at the minute is probably the worst decision in the history of the planet, Kathleen Kennedy. The last news I heard in her, they were talking that she may have been let go. Don't know how accurate that is, but all the bad choices stop with her at the end of the day. There's a lot of things here that I can't believe were actually greenlit and allowed to happen. We'll get into The Rise of Skywalker tomorrow, which for me was, again, it's a movie. I'll go and I'll watch it. If I don't like it, I'm not going to go to town too badly on it. But for the one thing I will say now about The Rise of Skywalker, it was a big budget, throw the toys out of the pram by J.J. Abrams. He wasn't originally supposed to come back to direct the third one. Can't recall what the deal was there. There was somebody else in there in front of him. But they stepped down. Goodness knows why. He was brought back on, and of course he wasn't happy with The Last Jedi, and he spent most of the third film trying to change bits and pieces of what was set up in the second one. So just a big budget, like childish. No, there's my toys. You can't play with my toys the way I want you to play with my toys, so I'm going to change everything you did. So yeah, weird setup. But I did say in the video for The Force Awakens, I have been putting off talking about these three films for so long now, just because of everything that's going on with the fandom. It's a very, very, very toxic outfit at the end of the day. But it's a movie. You're either going to love it or hate it, and it just doesn't compute in my head whenever people go to town on something and just like, well, you've destroyed my childhood. I wouldn't go as far as that, but I would say, just when you see your childhood heroes getting the happy ending they got in Return of the Jedi, you want that to be how it would still be this further on in time. But yeah, but having Han and Leia broken up and their kid turned to the dark side, Luke been a disaster on an island way hiding. It's not what we wanted for the legacy characters. It's Ghostbusters 2016 over again. If you're going to take on a franchise like this, you need to be respectful of what came before it. So that's all I've got for you guys. Until the next one, stay safe and I'll talk to you all then.